Imagine this. You're snorkeling in the warm Mediterranean waters off the coast of Naples, when suddenly you realize you're floating above a marble floor. Not just any marble floor. An intricate Roman mosaic that once graced the private villa of Julius Caesar himself. As you dive deeper, ornate columns emerge from the sandy bottom, and you're struck by an incredible realization. You're swimming through the ruins of what was once the most exclusive, most scandalous resort town in the entire Roman Empire. Welcome to Baia, the Las Vegas of the ancient world. A place so legendary for its luxury, debauchery, and political intrigue that Roman moralists condemned it as a den of sin. A resort town where emperors built palaces, where Cleopatra seduced Julius Caesar, where Mark Antony planned his campaigns, and where the most powerful people in history came to indulge in pleasures that would make modern tabloids blush. But here's the fascinating twist that makes this story perfect for our channel. This entire city of vice and luxury is now resting peacefully beneath the waves. And unlike Pompeii, which was destroyed in a single catastrophic day, Baia disappeared slowly, mysteriously, swallowed by the sea over centuries. Today, it's one of the world's most incredible underwater archaeological parks, where you can literally swim through the bedrooms where Roman emperors once slept. So what happened to Rome's ultimate party destination? How did a city that attracted the most powerful people in the ancient world end up on the bottom of the Mediterranean? And what secrets are archaeologists still discovering in its submerged streets? The story begins in one of the most volcanically active regions on Earth, the Phlegrean Fields, just northwest of Naples. In its heyday, Baia was the Roman elite's getaway destination. But this wasn't just any vacation spot. This was where the natural hot springs bubbling up from underground volcanic activity created the perfect setting for the world's first luxury spa resort. Think about it. 2,000 years before modern spa resorts, the Romans had discovered the perfect combination. Therapeutic hot springs, stunning coastal scenery, and enough distance from Rome to let loose without immediate political consequences. It was the ultimate escape for people who literally ruled the world. But what made Baia truly special wasn't just the hot springs. Some of the greatest names of the Roman Republic, Caesar, Cicero, Mark Antony, Nero, all of these men had villas at Baia, says Professor Kevin Dicus. We're talking about the A-list of ancient history, all congregating in one coastal town. Let me paint you a picture of what this place was like in its prime. Imagine the most exclusive gated community you've ever seen, but instead of modern mansions, picture elaborate Roman villas cascading down hillsides to private beaches. Marble terraces overlooking the Mediterranean. Private harbors where sleek Roman galleys docked. And everywhere, the sound of flowing water from elaborate fountain systems fed by those famous hot springs. The architecture alone would have put modern luxury resorts to shame. We're talking about villas with heated floors, private bathrooms with hot and cold running water, elaborate frescoes, and gardens filled with exotic plants from across the empire. Some of these estates were so massive they had their own theaters, libraries, and even private gladiator training facilities. But here's where Baia earned its reputation as the Las Vegas of the Roman Empire. It wasn't just about luxury. It was about excess, about pushing boundaries, about the kind of behavior that would never be tolerated in proper Roman society. The hot springs weren't just for relaxation. They were an excuse for mixed bathing, men and women together in various stages of undress, something that was absolutely scandalous in conservative Roman society. Ancient writers describe wild parties that lasted for days, political deals made in private baths, and romantic liaisons that changed the course of history. And the stories. Oh, the stories that came out of Baia. This is where Cleopatra is said to have stayed when she visited Julius Caesar in Rome. Can you imagine the political intrigue? The Queen of Egypt, the most powerful woman in the Mediterranean world, staying in a luxury villa overlooking the Bay of Naples while conducting secret negotiations with a man who effectively ruled Rome. The Roman poet Ovid, who knew a thing or two about scandalous behavior, wrote that more wives lost their virtue in Baia than anywhere else in the Roman world. The satirist Juvenal called it a place where every vice is practiced. Even Cicero, who had his own villa there, complained about the moral decay he witnessed. But you know what's fascinating about this? While Roman moralists were clutching their pearls about Baia's reputation, the most important political decisions of the ancient world were being made over wine and hot baths. This wasn't just a party town, it was an informal center of Roman power. Think about it. When you're relaxing in a hot spring with someone, when you're sharing meals and private conversations away from the formal constraints of Rome, that's when real business gets done. Deals were struck, alliances were formed, and the fate of the Mediterranean world was often decided in the private villas of Baia. Mark Antony is believed to have used his Baia villa as a planning center for his eastern campaigns. This is where he may have strategized his partnership with Cleopatra, where he prepared for the battles that would ultimately determine whether Rome remained a republic or became an empire. His indulgence in luxury and his affair with Cleopatra ultimately led to his downfall, but those crucial decisions were likely made in the luxury of his Baia retreat. Julius Caesar himself had a villa here, and according to some accounts, this is where he entertained foreign dignitaries and planned some of his most ambitious campaigns. Imagine walking through rooms where Caesar discussed his conquest of Gaul, where he may have planned his famous crossing of the Rubicon. But here's where our story takes its dramatic turn. All of this luxury, all of this history, all of these incredible villas and their scandalous stories, it's all underwater now. And the reason why is one of the most fascinating geological phenomena on Earth. While Baia was not destroyed by a volcanic eruption like Pompeii, it was still located in a volcanically active area, and the movement of magma in the earth caused the lower half of Baia to gradually sink beneath the sea between the 3rd and 16th centuries. The phenomenon is called Bradyseism, and it's absolutely unique to this region. The region is known for the phenomenon called Bradyseismo, the regular lowering or increasing of the soil as a result of the filling or emptying of volcanic chambers located under the surface of the earth. Unlike earthquakes, which shake things apart horizontally, Bradyseism literally lifts or lowers the ground vertically as underground magma chambers fill and empty. Unlike earthquakes, which move mostly horizontally, Bradyseism makes the ground move upward or downward. This is how this ancient resort, popular among the rich and famous of the Roman Empire, plunged below the surface of the sea. Can you imagine what this must have been like for the people living there? Not a sudden catastrophe like Pompeii, but a slow, inexorable sinking. Villas that had been built on hillsides gradually found themselves at sea level. Private harbors that once hosted Roman galleys slowly disappeared beneath the waves. Springs that had bubbled on dry land began bubbling underwater. By 1500, the remains of the formerly luxurious town were abandoned. After the city remains were emptied, the water level slowly rose due to the same volcanic vents that were once a draw to the area, and most of the ancient ruins were drowned under the shallow waters of the bay. But here's the remarkable thing: because the sinking was gradual, and because the Mediterranean is relatively calm, much of Baia was preserved. Recent underwater archaeology has revealed many of the fine buildings now protected in the submerged Archaeological Park. We're talking about intact mosaic floors, standing columns, even some roofing structures that have survived 2,000 years underwater. Imperial baths, precious mosaics, sinuous statues and marble floors have been found underwater. And we're not talking about scattered fragments. We're talking about complete rooms, entire building complexes, thermal bath systems that you can swim through and explore. In 2002, recognizing the incredible archaeological value of this site, the Archaeological Marine Park was established to protect all this. Today, it's one of the most unique archaeological sites in the world, a place where you can literally swim through Roman history. Now, let me ask you something that I find absolutely mind-blowing about this site. How many places on Earth can you swim through a Roman emperor's bathroom? How many archaeological sites let you float above a mosaic floor where Julius Caesar once walked? The preservation is so remarkable that archaeologists can identify specific types of rooms and their functions. They've found elaborate thermal bath complexes, the kinds of luxury spas that made Baia famous. They've discovered what appear to be private dining rooms where political deals were made over wine and exotic delicacies. They've even found what look like private harbors where Roman galleys once docked. And the discoveries keep coming. Just in recent years, underwater archaeologists have uncovered new sections of the site that reveal just how extensive this resort town really was. We're talking about a complex that stretched for miles along the coast, with dozens of major villa complexes and all the supporting infrastructure of a major Roman city. But what I find most fascinating is how this underwater city is changing our understanding of Roman engineering and architecture. When these buildings were constructed, they were designed for dry land. But seeing them underwater gives us a completely different perspective on Roman construction techniques. For example, we can see exactly how Roman concrete was mixed and applied in a way that's impossible when studying ruins on dry land. The underwater environment has actually preserved details of construction that would have weathered away centuries ago if they'd remained above ground. We can see the incredibly sophisticated water management systems that the Romans used, not just for the famous baths, but for elaborate fountain networks, garden irrigation, and even primitive air conditioning systems that used flowing water to cool interior spaces. And here's something that gives me chills every time I think about it. This site is actively being studied by NASA. Why? Because the preservation conditions in the Mediterranean are similar to what scientists expect to find on Mars if water ever existed there. The techniques being developed to study underwater Roman ruins are literally helping us prepare for archaeological investigation on other planets. But let's get back to the human stories, because that's what makes history really come alive. As you're swimming through these ruins, you're not just seeing ancient architecture, you're seeing the physical remains of human ambition, political intrigue, and yes, scandal. Think about Mark Antony, one of the most powerful men in Roman history, relaxing in these very hot springs while planning his alliance with Cleopatra. Political historians suggest that some of the decisions that led to the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the empire were made in the private villas of Baia. Cleopatra sought to seduce Antony as she had Caesar before him, and in 41 BC arrived at Tarsus on a magnificent river barge, dressed as Venus, the Roman goddess of love. While this famous meeting happened at Tarsus, many historians believe that the private planning for this political theater took place in the secure environment of Antony's Baia villa. Consider the irony. Decisions that would reshape the Mediterranean world, that would determine whether Rome remained a republic or became an empire, may have been made while relaxing in hot springs that are now 30 feet underwater. And it wasn't just the men making history here. Roman women, despite their limited official political power, were major players in Baia society. Wealthy Roman matrons owned their own villas, hosted their own political salons, and wielded considerable behind-the-scenes influence. The satirical writers of the time complained that Baia corrupted Roman women, but what they were really describing was probably the first place in the Roman world where women had something approaching social equality with men. In the mixed bathing culture of Baia, in the informal atmosphere of vacation life, traditional Roman gender roles were relaxed in ways that scandalized conservative society but probably advanced political discourse. Now, here's a question that keeps me up at night. What would we find if we could fully excavate this site? The underwater archaeology that's been done so far has only scratched the surface. Most of Baia is still buried under centuries of Mediterranean sediment. Ground-penetrating sonar has revealed massive structures that haven't been explored yet. There are entire villa complexes that we can detect but can't yet access. There are harbor installations that could revolutionize our understanding of Roman maritime engineering. And there are almost certainly private archives, libraries, document collections, personal papers that could rewrite Roman history. But here's the challenge. Underwater archaeology is incredibly expensive and technically demanding. Every dive requires specialized equipment, experienced personnel, and careful environmental monitoring. The site is also actively sinking. That same Bradyseismic activity that created this underwater museum is still ongoing. Parts of the site that were accessible to divers 20 years ago are now too deep for safe exploration. Climate change is also affecting the site. Rising sea levels and changing current patterns are altering the sediment deposition that has helped preserve the ruins for centuries. There's a real urgency to studying and documenting this site before environmental changes make it inaccessible. But here's what gives me hope. Technology is advancing faster than the site is deteriorating. Advanced underwater robots can now explore depths that are too dangerous for human divers. 3D scanning technology can create detailed digital models of entire structures without disturbing the archaeological context. And virtual reality is making it possible for people around the world to visit these underwater ruins without physically impacting the site. In fact, you can now take virtual reality tours of underwater Baia from your living room. Schools are using these digital reconstructions to teach Roman history. Researchers are using 3D models to test theories about Roman engineering without disturbing the actual artifacts. And here's something that I think perfectly captures the continuing relevance of this story. Baia is teaching us about climate change and human adaptation. This ancient resort city was destroyed by the same kind of environmental changes that we're dealing with today. Rising sea levels, geological instability, changing coastlines. The Romans didn't understand Bradyseism any better than we do. They couldn't predict or prevent their luxury resort from sinking into the sea. But they adapted. They moved their activities to higher ground. They developed new technologies for dealing with changing water levels. They found ways to preserve what was important and rebuild what was lost. Today, coastal cities around the world are facing their own versions of the Baia challenge. Miami is installing massive pumping systems to deal with rising water. Venice is building movable sea barriers. The Netherlands is literally creating new land to stay above the waves. In many ways, we're following the same adaptation strategies that the Romans pioneered 2,000 years ago. But there's another lesson from Baia that I think is equally important: the value of preserving history for future generations. This ancient coastal resort of Baia, now an archaeological park, drowned by a constant, subtle volcanic activity known as Bradyseism that slowly dunked the land below the sea. The fact that we can study this site today, that we can learn from these ancient political decisions and engineering innovations, is only possible because generations of archaeologists and conservationists recognized its value and fought to preserve it. Every mosaic floor that's been carefully cleaned and documented, every column that's been measured and recorded, every artifact that's been recovered and studied, all of this represents a commitment to preserving human knowledge across centuries and millennia. And that brings us back to why stories like this matter. Baia isn't just an interesting historical footnote. It's a window into how powerful people throughout history have lived, worked, and made decisions that shaped the world. It's a reminder that human nature, our desires for luxury, our need for private spaces to conduct important business, Our tendency to push social boundaries when we think nobody's watching hasn't really changed in 2,000 years. The Roman elite who built their villas in Baia were dealing with the same basic challenges we face today. How to balance public responsibility with private desires, how to maintain political alliances across cultural differences, how to adapt to environmental changes beyond their control. Julius Caesar facing political opposition in Rome, Mark Antony trying to balance competing interests across the Mediterranean, Cleopatra navigating the complex world of international diplomacy. These were all people dealing with timeless human challenges in the luxury setting of Baia. And now all of their political maneuvering, all of their luxury and excess, all of their human drama, rests quietly beneath the Mediterranean waves. Fish swim through rooms where emperors once slept. Sea grass grows on marble floors where the fate of nations was decided. The thermal springs that once attracted the most powerful people in the ancient world still bubble up from the seafloor, but now they warm the surrounding seawater rather than elaborate Roman baths. There's something both humbling and inspiring about that image. All of our contemporary political drama, all of our modern luxury and ambition, will someday be ancient history too. The question is, what will archaeologists of the future learn from studying our civilization? What stories will they tell about how we lived, what we valued, and how we adapted to the challenges of our time? Baia reminds us that even the most powerful civilizations are temporary, but the human stories they leave behind can echo across millennia. The political lessons learned in Roman hot springs are still relevant today. The engineering innovations developed for luxury villas continue to influence modern architecture. The social dynamics of ancient resort culture still play out in modern contexts. So the next time you're planning a vacation to an exclusive resort, remember that you're following a tradition that goes back at least 2,000 years. And if you're ever lucky enough to visit the underwater archaeological park of Baia, remember that you're swimming through rooms where some of the most important decisions in human history were made over wine and conversation. What fascinates me most about this story is how it connects the personal and the political, the ancient and the modern, the luxurious and the environmental. Baia was simultaneously the ultimate symbol of Roman decadence and a serious center of political power. It was both a testament to human engineering achievement and a victim of natural forces beyond human control. Those same contradictions define our world today. Our luxury resorts and political retreats, our technological achievements and environmental vulnerabilities, our personal desires and public responsibilities. All of these themes that played out in ancient Baia are still playing out today. So what do you think? Are we learning from the lessons of Baia, or are we repeating the same patterns that led to its submersion beneath the waves? Are our modern resort destinations creating the same kind of political and social dynamics that made Baia simultaneously powerful and scandalous? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever visited an underwater archaeological site? Would you want to dive through the ruins of Caesar's villa? And what do you think we can learn from how the Romans balanced luxury and political power? Don't forget to subscribe for more tales from under the sea, because every week we're discovering new stories about how human ambition and natural forces have shaped the hidden history beneath our world's waters. The Mediterranean still holds its secrets, but piece by piece, dive by dive, we're learning to read the stories written in stone on the seafloor. And every discovery reminds us that human civilization is both more impressive and more fragile than we often realize.